Welcome back to the Brand Archetypes podcast, where we dive into the world of branding, archetypes, and storytelling from the lens of both BG5 and traditional brand archetypes. Today, I'm very excited because we are exploring one of the most foundational aspects of branding, and this is the psychological and emotional connections we build with our brands. And this is why I'm so passionate about brand archetypes, traditional approaches to brand archetypes, and the fusion of it with BG5 to get our unique texture and feel within that archetype to really amplify the results of standing out in your niche as a thought leader, or even if you're not an entrepreneur, standing out in your career, because we use archetypes in every area of life. Now, the one thing I do want to say before we continue with that thought in mind is a lot of people say, well, I took your archetype quiz, Ash, and I got the explorer, or I got the every woman, but I feel like I have threads of the outlaw. We embody all of the archetypes. We have all of them within us. The rebel and outlaw isn't constantly tearing down systems. They're also the lover in certain areas of life and the caregiver. So what we want to do is leverage one core archetype, whether in your career or your brand, to amplify, and that's going to be your core identity, the one that you resonate with most, and the one that you desire to position at the forefront in your brand. We want to leverage that as a way to drive emotional connections within your brand. It is going to shape everything you do. It is not just the logo. It's not just, well, because I'm the rebel, I'm going to wear black, versus if I was the magician, I'm going to wear more jewel tones and flowing clothes, right? It's more than that. It's more than your tagline. It's about creating a story, a feeling, and a movement that attracts like-minded people. That is essentially what brand archetypes is about. People want to, at the end of the day, be around others who resonate with them, their values, their beliefs, their energy, how they speak, how they show up, their life experiences. When I talk about, and I know it's very hard if you know me to imagine this, but I am the outlaw brand archetype. And even my storytelling, I bring to the forefront stories that highlight that to connect with others that have experienced that. So we can create that emotional connection over being the black sheep, over being the outcast, over being the misfit. We can leverage this in a way that builds a business and a community of like-minded people that ultimately, which I think is so important, especially in personal branding, attracts people that you're obsessed helping. You enjoy helping. It shouldn't be a chore, especially in personal brands, for you to work with the people that you're attracting. And sometimes if your archetype's off and you're trying to be something you're not, it absolutely can attract the wrong people. And then it feels like painful, root canal energy showing up in your business every day. And this is exactly what archetypes and BG5 help us uncover. I don't know anyone else. I was a leader in the niche talking about BG5 in terms of branding. And I do believe I'm the only one that's talking about BG5 and branding archetypes. I do know I'm the only one that's created the Archetypes quiz that also leverages BG5. So this is something that I think is really new to the online space, and not a lot of people already know about brand archetypes. It's something I'm finding gaining traction as we're going into 2025. It's something I've spoke about with my clients for the last 5+ years. Now it's more at the forefront because I'm seeing that people are searching for it. I'm seeing that this is what you guys want. And I want to bring you into the nuances and layers of it. We're going to look at that through the 23 to 43 Genius to Freak channel today in BG5, which is the business application of the human design system. I want to bring you into the belly of really creating an epic brand that people want to rally behind and support and be a part of. And it is a lot more intentional than just posting value posts online. It is a lot and requires a lot more intentionality than just positioning yourself as an expert online. There's a lot of great songwriters in the world, but why is Taylor Swift at the level she's at? Whether intentionally or by accident, she has leveraged brand archetypes so powerfully that she's created an entire world around the every woman. And her brand aesthetics are so on point. Her brand voice, the experience, the feelings you have. And it's so curated that you really don't see Taylor off brand even in public anymore. This is the power of archetypes. And the truth is that your archetype, it won't just influence the stories you tell or how you market yourself. It's going to frame how you lead ultimately, how you and who you attract, and the legacy that you're building. It is the foundation of your entire movement. And ultimately, people, when they purchase from you, they're saying yes to the movement you're creating. Because no matter what you do, they can hire someone else. They can go to someone else. There are other people in your niche, I'm sure. And so when we start to leverage archetypes, we start to build a movement and a world around who we be, what we believe in, our values, what we're working towards, and people get to say yes to that. And it's pretty special. I absolutely love the power of archetypes and how it attracts. I mean, in my world, I have core people that have been around since I was building my personal training brand 15 years ago. And they still come back and they still buy from me and they still check in and say hi and we support each other. That's the power of a brand. That's the power of brand archetypes and attracting the right people. So today we are going to break down what I think are two of the boldest archetypes, the explorer and the rebel. The rebel is also often called the outlaw. Some people resonate a little bit more with the word outlaw. Some resonate a little bit more with the word rebel. It ultimately is the same thing. It's outlaw, rebel is the same archetype and branding, but we're going to contrast them because on the surface, when we hear certain trigger words or taglines for those two archetypes, they might seem very similar. You might think, well, what's the difference between the explorer and the rebel? I want to look at how these two powerful archetypes that truly, both of them change the shape of industries, which is why I'm obsessed with both of them. They are what we call in terms of the psychology, their core motivational psychology is to leave a thumbprint on the world, right? They're changing something. So there's a big similarity between the two of them in that respect. They're both usually very bold personalities. They stand out really well. But what's different between them? How can you leverage your archetype to stand out even more? And then we're going to pull a nuance. I like to show you guys. Now, when I'm working with clients in BG5, the best way to get the most out of that is either the brand VIP days or the brand to movement accelerator, which is a done for you offer. The brand VIP days are meant for more of if you're starting your business or you're pivoting and you're desiring clarity. That would be the brand VIP day for you. And in private work, we get to look at the entirety of your body graph because it does matter, right? For me as an outlaw archetype, how I position my different channels and even my 4-6 profile is all very intentional within my outlaw archetype. So we get to do that one-on-one. It's impossible to do that in group programs or in workshops as much as I love doing those with you guys because it is very nuanced. Now, let's start breaking down the explorer first. Let's do the explorer first. The core trait, when we are looking at the explorer, the core motivation, actually, let's look at the core motivation first. Like I said, these two archetypes are going to be two archetypes where they are driven primarily in leaving their thumbprint on the world. So the core motivation, the nuance of that for the explorer is powerfully, almost a powerful craving. It's especially if you have the 58 to 18, this unquenchable thirst for experiences and adventures, right? That 58 to 18 is going to send you off in like correcting things. And it's this powerful, insatiable feeling, but it's different for the explorer. It's to go out and have experiences. Whereas the 58 to 18 for the outlaw will be like tearing down systems. So when we're looking at the core motivation for the explorer, it's a powerful craving for new experiences. And they'll do almost anything to avoid boredom. And positioning that, Jeep is a great example. We'll break it down. GoPro. Brand positioning of the explorer, we want to put that at the forefront. It's almost this energy of live and let live. That's the attitude of the explorer. The attitude of the explorer is also the visionary. You're seeking new paths. You're looking for new possibilities. And you're leading through exploration, discovery, and pushing boundaries of what's possible. Now, that might be where you say, well, the explorer is known for pushing boundaries. Isn't the rebel as well? And you are right. There are similarities. But again, the power lies in the nuance. One of the things that I find has been one of my greatest strengths in life, but has also made me a bit of a misfit, is I live in the gray zone and I'm always looking for the nuance. And it's made me very powerful at building brands because I see things others don't, both in my own business and brands, but also in others. But also it doesn't make you really popular, right? It's something I said the other day where when you see everyone's perspective, sometimes you fit in nowhere, which is very much an outlaw trait for sure. So with this, yes, they're known for pushing boundaries. You're going to see how it's different when we get to the outlaw. What we want to really focus on with the explorer is kind of that live and let live. That idea of let's try it out, like dreaming big, going out for new experiences. And how you're going to connect with your niche through that is by being authentic guides. You're not experts preaching from a pedestal. So that might be more of the ruler type. Even that, you have to be very cautious. I don't work with a lot of ruler brands, although I do love ruler brands, but I find I can be a little bit abrasive for ruler brands. They're not typically looking for someone like me. And but I work with a lot of explorers. I work with a lot of magicians. And what we want is you're not preaching from a pedestal. You're not on the throne. You're inspiring trust and loyalty because you're in the muck doing it with people. Especially if you're a 3-6 profile or 6-3 in human design BG5. BG5, the business application of the human design system, your profile is going to be called your public role. That's how you really inspire trust and loyalty, is leveraging that you're in the muck too. You're authentic. You're there. Bear Grylls is one of those people. So number one, connecting with your niche, you want to share your journey authentically. However, for every archetype, what's so important is not all of you is meant for your brand. And this is where so many people go wrong, is they're putting all of them in their brand and wondering why it's muddy, right? Not all of you is meant for your brand. That's also where people say, yeah, but I'm a little bit of magician. I'm a little bit of outlaw. I'm a little bit of this. I'm a little bit of that. Well, we all are. It's based off of brand archetypes are based off of Carl Jung's archetypes. It's psychology. That's also why it can be so powerful in business. It's also why I tell people with great power comes great responsibility. Understanding the power of psychology in business means you have a responsibility to use it in an ethical way. So sharing your journey, it's going to be the right stories. Not everything is for your brand, but your openness about your discoveries, your challenges, your wins are going to invite your audience to feel like you're walking the path and they get to walk beside you. You're just a couple steps ahead. And it feels kind of like an adventure, right? It feels like an adventure that you're going on together. 2, offering freedom. Now, something I want to say is you do not sell freedom, right? One thing we know here is your transformation is not an emotion. So we want to make sure that you're not actually selling freedom because you don't sell emotions. When we're looking at offering freedom, you empower your niche to make their own discoveries rather than prescribing rigid solutions. So that could be one way of freedom. And it might be this idea as well as of dreaming big as the explorer. You might not know what's coming on the other side of this, but if that's your dream, go for it. And let's put the steps in place. 3, inspiring possibility. Your brand gives people permission to dream bigger and explore opportunities they didn't even know existed. One thing you have to be careful of, though, is you don't want to go over into magician territory. The best brands that stand out the most and make the most money and stay relevant long-term go deeper into their archetype. They don't dabble in other archetypes. So where I see a lot of people when they start learning about archetypes trying to dabble is they're going and they're seeing this inspiring possibility and starting to go into magician territory. And then the brand starts to get confusing and muddy. And the message starts to get where it's not hitting for anyone. The leadership style of the explorer, you're going to be pioneering, especially if you have the 3-6 or 6-3. Leaning into that's going to be huge. Innovative, inspiring others, again, to think bigger and explore uncharted territory, even if you're in corporate and your corporate brand is the explorer. Pushing your team to explore uncharted territory will be your strength as a leader within corporate, within your career. It doesn't just have to be entrepreneurship. And that's how you get to stand out as well when you're looking for promotions. Because again, I think one thing we don't really realize is that brand archetypes are every realm of life. They don't just apply to entrepreneurship, public figures, corporate leaders. This applies to us all. So when you're going into, for example, a interview for a promotion, if they ask about how's your leadership style different, this is something we can lean on and emphasize with examples, of course, not just, I explore uncharted territory and I encourage my team to do the same. We want back it up with proof, and that's going to set you apart. Emphasize in the leadership style, point 2, emphasize trust building and guiding others to step into the unknown. We want to remember for the explorer, you're not just selling products or services, you're selling the journey. You are promising transformation through adventure, freedom, and the pursuit of something greater. But we want to know, what is the actual transformation? So what I say to my clients that I work with all the time is that is not the actual transformation, the adventure, freedom, pursuit of something greater. The transformation you get them will have the feeling of, this is adventurous. Oh my gosh, I feel so much freer. I am finally pursuing my dreams, but you have to get them the transformation. Feelings and emotions are a byproduct of the transformation. They are not the transformation. I see this challenge a lot. People will come into my brand VIP days and I'll say, what's the transformation you provide? And they go, confidence. People feel more confident after working with me. And I'll say, well, what's the transformation that got them confidence? And it's like deer in the headlights of, what do you mean? That is the transformation. They're more confident. Well, that's why your brand's not landing, because you're not even clear on the transformation they get. Pop culture examples are going to be your Jeep, GoPro, Star Trek. I've never even seen Star Trek. I don't know if you guys have. Bear Grylls, Stephanie Millinger. I don't know if you guys know Stephanie Millinger. I follow her on Instagram. If you have fear of heights, I recommend just, doing some breath work or grounding before you look at her account, because just tell you that. But she is such a beautiful example of the explorer archetype, and she's truly exploring the world. And you just have to go check her out. Just go check her out. She's on Instagram. She's incredible. The strengths and challenges, they're innovative. They have a vision. They are inspired to take action, but they also inspire others, and they actually follow through on that, right? So you see them out there exploring, and it doesn't mean that you and your brand. So when I've worked with clients on brand VIP days before, they go, okay, well, do I have to travel? Because I don't want to travel. No, you don't have to travel the world. You don't have to hang from steel ladders that are, 1,000 feet above the ground or something insane with no harness. You don't have to do that. We want to look at, how are you exploring and charting new territory within your niche, right? How are you exploring and charting new territory within the corporation you work for? How do you see things in a really unique and different way? Because you're looking at paving new paths where maybe other people in competition with you for that leadership position or that promotion are kind of working within the constraints of what they've been given, and they're just repeating what's been given to them. They're not innovating. Now, the challenges, the explorer can sometimes struggle with follow through or overreaching. So it can feel sometimes very head in the clouds without the follow through, and that can damage trust in your brand. And another thing that can happen with the explorer is, when we look at a core motivation of the explorer, is they want new experiences. They don't want boredom. And the problem is, when you are an entrepreneur, what scales a brand is making the brand, not the brand boring, but making the business itself boring. And what I mean by that is boring scales. Predictable, you know what works, and you're fixing what doesn't work, and you're scaling. And then you're fixing what didn't work there, pushing harder on what did work, and scaling. A great example of that, although it is not an explorer brand, is the iPhone. The iPhone has, what are we on? 16? 17? I think this is older. I think I'm a year behind. Oh my goodness. That is not very cool of me. Maybe that's very outlaw of me, because I wasn't waiting to get the new one. I think I'm a year or two behind. Whoops. So the point is, however, with iPhones, Apple isn't doing a phone one year and then a car the next year and then a new type of laptop the next year. I understand they have MacBook Pros, but stay with me here. And then the next year they're doing a vacuum. And then the year after that, they're doing a space heater. And then the year after that, they're doing, you know what I mean? Like, they're not completely changing their business year to year. What they're doing is refining what works. They have incredible pillar products. Yes, they're innovating as well, and they built ecosystems, but they have incredible products that they've built off of, and they just redesign, change something, and launch it again every year to stay relevant. That's it. Because you have to stay relevant. Because, well, I have an older one, but most people don't want the old iPhone. One, it's not cool for those that care about that. But two, the camera's going to be outdated. Some of the systems and software are going to be outdated. So for them to stay relevant so that other companies can't catch up to them, they need to relaunch it. But essentially what Apple's doing is, as they expand their product suite and their ecosystem in their specialty, essentially what they're doing is just relaunching their pillar products that carry the brand. And that might be seen as boring for people that are like, I need a new thing every single day. But that is what grows a brand. So that can be one of the challenges for the Explorer, is they're just bouncing from thing to thing and kind of taking out that need for excitement on their brand. Now, the Outlaw, the Rebel, that is my brand. The core trait, and I would say the core motivating factor, is to challenge the status quo and dismantle systems that don't serve, which is very different than the Explorer. When we're looking at the Outlaw, they're fueled by boldness, a desire for justice or transformation, and they represent the voice that has had enough of the way things have been. And that can be very divisive. And the Outlaw is not one of the most popular brands in terms of mass appeal. The Outlaw or the Rebel is not going to have the mass appeal that something like the Every Woman would have, which is why I think Taylor Swift's branding as the Every Woman was genius, because it has a broader appeal than the Outlaw. I'm not saying she would ever grow an Outlaw brand, but just for contrast's sake. The benefit, however, of the Outlaw is that it stands out. It's love them or hate them. You're going to find a lot of people that are very strongly on both sides of love-hate with the Outlaw, probably more so than other brands, although I have a lot of Every Woman brands that are really challenging their niches and take a lot of heat. But you're going to see less of a global acceptance of the Outlaw. However, there is a powerful opportunity to really leverage that uniqueness and your voice and represent a new way of being by tearing down what doesn't work. The Outlaw, their key is they're tuned into social change, bringing fresh perspectives. They are fluent in the language of society and tradition. That's where I really leverage my 58 to 18, which is seeing the patterns that currently aren't working and creating new patterns and new systems. And they see from a vantage point that illuminates new directions without shying away from what didn't work. So, for example, if we're in a meeting to have a promotion, let's go with this. So we're not just using entrepreneur examples. You're at your corporate career and you're in a meeting, you're in an interview for a promotion. The Explorer very likely is not going to identify what doesn't work. They will bring their new perspectives, their innovative ideas, but they're likely not going to say, because this didn't work, or I want to tear down these systems. The Outlaw will. They are, and this is what has been my greatest power when I was in corporate, but also what was a weakness where it made my businesses very successful. But when I was working for other people, made me a little bit of a wild card, where it's like, Ashley, even when I was in the counseling field, Ashley gets results, but her ideas, like, she doesn't agree with this and she's against this and she's calling out this and she sees it this way. It made me a little bit of a wild card, and not everyone likes wild cards. So it is really important as well for the Outlaws to be in corporations and companies that honor that skill and that strength, that want you to call out maybe things that you see that don't work. There are a lot of companies and roles where that's a huge benefit. The Outlaw is also provocative, brutally honest at times, and willing to experiment. With the brutally honest, I always say, in my brand, I honor those and respect those that need more, what I call kid gloves, and that might offend people as well, but I honor those that need more hand holding. I'm not the person for you if that's what you're looking for, because I'm brutally honest. Now, the benefit of that is I get you results faster than most people get you. Or I'd say, well, in this, I'm the only person doing this, but I get you results fast because I will be brutally honest on what is not working. I am no bullshit. With the core reason for that is I want you getting results and seeing an ROI as fast as possible. Doesn't mean it's going to be fast, but as fast as possible within your brand. So that again can be a little bit, some people love it, some people don't. The leadership style of the Outlaw is direct, fearless, unapologetically willing to speak truth to power, emphasize creating movements that break down old paradigms. So their movements that they're creating within their brand are going to be, we're breaking down these old paradigms because that doesn't work. 58 to 18 is how I leverage that. And then I use my genius to freak, the 23 to 43, which we'll talk about, to say, and this is where we're going. So it's not that I'm just tearing things down and saying all this is horrible and don't do this. I'm also bringing the innovative ideas. So that's one thing we want to be careful of with the Outlaw, that you're not just like, this sucks and all of this sucks, without having a solution to move forward with. I always joke that the Outlaws take my popular saying, people will love you and hate you for the same reasons, and run with it as a battle cry for other black sheep. That's one thing I've leveraged in my brand from the beginning. And as someone with ADHD with rejection sensitivity, has also been it's an interesting dynamic to have ADHD with rejection sensitivity and through be the Outlaw, because you get rejected a lot and people take you in ways you don't mean to be taken a lot, because you are brutally honest and you say it like it is. And at the same time, for the Outlaw, if that's your brand archetype, running with that and honoring those places where people don't like you and saying that's okay. I honor you. I see you. Like, I don't have an issue with people that don't like me. No one's meant to be for everyone. That's very much the Outlaw way as well. And leveraging that within your brand, because it becomes a battle cry for the people you are here for. Now, the Outlaw archetype, something I want to say, thrives on breaking the rules and dismantling the status quo to create something bold, something transformative, something that really like rattles the cages, if you will. Your audience isn't going to be drawn to polished and predictable. Now, I don't mean predictable in the sense, because again, building a brand requires you, a brand that's scalable, business that's scalable, requires it to be boring, right? You're never going to be bored. You won't be bored really, because there's always something going on in business. You always have to be attuned to the market. You have to always be looking ahead and 2 steps ahead of everyone. So you're never, trust me, if you're using all your energy on just trying to create offers and chasing new ideas, that's probably why your business is struggling as well, because you don't have the mental capacity or bandwidth to focus on those things, where the market's going, your competitors that are nipping at your heels, etc. However, when we're looking at building the Outlaw Rebel brand, my brand's not polished in the sense of like my Instagram grid on purpose. One, it's just not in the core of who I be to do for myself. I have clients that have very polished brands, but for me, it's just like not a representative of who I am. And it's really important for the Outlaw to be very unapologetic in who they are. However, that polished look goes against the whole point of the Outlaw, right? So your community is going to be inspired by your ability and willingness to stand out, your ability and willingness to challenge norms, and your ability and willingness to ignite change. Pop culture examples are going to be Harley Davidson, MTV. I mean, MTV is the best pop culture. MTV is unhinged. You never know what to expect with MTV. Beth Dutton from Yellowstone. And I know I was reading an article with Taylor Sheridan, who is one of he doesn't know it, but he is my mentor without him knowing he's my mentor in terms of storytelling. I admire him so much. I study him day in and day out. I feel like studying him and his storytelling ability and world creation ability is my part-time job. I just am enthralled in everything Taylor Sheridan. I think he is the TV show movie version of the genius Taylor Swift has. He just brings it out in a different way. And I was reading an article where he said in the beginning, because no one wanted Yellowstone in the beginning. In the beginning, one of the problems people had with Yellowstone is they wanted Beth's character changed and softer. And he wouldn't. He said, I compromised most of my life. I am not compromising on anything. So Beth is very much the outlaw. She starts out and you start to see her softness over time, because what we want to keep in mind, I think she's a beautiful example of the evolution of the outlaw, the wounded outlaw, if you will, to the embodied outlaw, because despite that demeanor of the outlaw that can kind of seem maybe rough or fueled or driven by anger, they're often very kind-hearted at their core, right? And that's one of the nuances I bring in for my clients that are outlaw brands. Like, you just don't want to be like ripping down the system and constantly saying what's wrong. We want to see your heart as well. And that doesn't make you any less of an outlaw, because at the core, the outlaws, no, I mean, this doesn't mean every single person in history. However, the people I work with and that are attracted to my world, and for myself, I can speak for myself as well. We care so much that we don't mince words. We care so much that we want to change the system, and we're not afraid to be the ones to say the words, right? And you can see that with Beth. In the beginning, she's very much rough around the edges outlaw. And then at the end, you see more of that like nurturer outlaw come out, and the kindness at the core. And so that is a piece of the core driver for the outlaw, as well as you want people to wake up. And that's a difference, right, between the explorer and the outlaw. The explorer is go out and explore. The outlaw is like, wake up. Like, I'm going to shake you until you wake up. The strengths and challenges are boldness, clarity, and fearlessness. The strengths are boldness, clarity, and fearlessness. The challenges, one can intimidate or alienate if not careful. Sometimes that very like tough persona can almost feel like, I'm like afraid to message this person kind of feeling, right? And another thing that can happen with the outlaw in terms of personal branding and business is, because a core driver is wanting people to wake up, the outlaw, and I've been there. I have been there. It has been lessons I've learned multiple times, and I will probably continue to learn for the rest of my life. Because that core driver is to wake people up, our message can start talking to people that are quote unquote asleep or don't see our way. And then it feels like all your energy is going into convincing people. And that's not a great way to build a brand. You're usually going to get people that are either, don't have the money to invest, or looking for low cost offers, or just free content. And you don't have a business if people aren't buying and converting. So when we're looking at the outlaw, it's really important that, yes, I understand your core drivers to wake people up, and speak to people that are already awakened and already see what you're bringing forward, the value in what you do, rather than trying to convince people to wake up. Because if you spend your time trying to convince people to wake up, trust me, from my experience, you're going to burn out. All right. So focus that energy of wanting people to wake up and wanting people to see that there's a different way. Speak to the people that are already awake and that see there's a different way. And you provide that. You provide the way forward. Now, the outlaw versus the explorer, we've already done a little bit. However, just to give you guys a couple examples, the explorers are going to build by charting new paths. The rebels build by tearing down what's broken and then rebuilding. So the rebels aren't going to shy away from this is wrong. And that can be really triggering sometimes for people to hear that, right? Explorers focus on creating the next vision. Rebels focus on exposing and fixing flaws in the current system. Examples, if we use two businesses that are using BG5. So I'm certified by the BG5 Business Institute, which is the business application of the human design system, as a business consultant, profit potential specialist, and business cycles specialist. I've also been at the IHDS, International Human Design School, for many, many years, and retaken PTL, professional training level 1 to 3, with 3 different instructors, because I'm just obsessed. And let's use BG5 as an example. An explorer might launch a business focused on developing entirely new frameworks. So what they're doing is they're charting new territory in, for example, branding, something completely different. And they're leveraging BG5 as a piece of that framework. But it's completely new territory they're going on. And they're not worried about what's broken. They're not worried about what's in the past. They're live and let live, baby. They're on the open road. The rebel with this might focus some of their marketing on dismantling toxic myths in the online space. And for example, quote unquote, just align and it will come to you, or just align your design and you'll make money. They're going to focus on dismantling those toxic myths while also positioning themselves as a thought leader in how to move forward. And it's a very small shift. I wish I knew someone that was the explorer within my niche to give you a contrast on me. But if you know me and you've been in my world, you know that I don't shy away from calling out toxic myths. It's been a core of my business for a very long time. And I always provide you with a way forward. And I'm not afraid to call out things that don't work. Now, I want to show you as well how this might work with, example, a 23 to 43, which is a channel. In BG5, we call them strengths, because when we're looking at BG5, we want practical language, right? And if I go into a corporation and work with a team, if I tell them your channel 23 to 43, people are like, what? That means nothing to me. So it's strengths in BG5. 23 to 43 is known as a genius to freak, and it's about translating unique, innovative ideas into something tangible. And not just tangible, but something that you communicate, right? It's your ajna connected to the throat. So you're communicating these unique and innovative ideas. The rebel frame of this will use that channel to break through outdated systems and expose gaps in the way people think or operate. For example, my work. So I will call out shallow branding, or I'll even call out that brand archetypes aren't enough, that we need to even have the nuance of BG5. That positions me in a very unique way by also exposing the gaps in the current market. And I create the solution, the BG5 and brand archetypes quiz. The explorer frame might use that channel to develop entirely new systems or methodologies, innovating on what's already working in their brand and take it further. So again, one of the big differences we can see is they're really not looking or caring about the outdated systems. They're focused on, again, this live and let live, whatever. It's in the past. Let's focus on the future. Let's focus on pioneering a new path. So this could be a coach pioneering a new coaching methodology inspired by human design or BG5 insights, but not even using those. I could almost, he wouldn't be the explorer himself, but use the example of Richard Rudd, where he pioneered a new spiritual framework, Gene Keys, which was inspired by human design or BG5. And he just charts this new territory. I wouldn't put him as the explorer, though. However, that is one example we can use just for a tangible example. So what we're looking at is the rebels might be seen as more confrontational or focused on fixing. The explorers use a channel to ask, what's next? And how can I innovate ideas for what's next? Neither is wrong. And both are going to attract very specific people within your niche. So you can have two people, a rebel and an explorer. And even though they're essentially, let's use, again, BG5 as an example. They're both BG5 consultants and they're both building businesses off of BG5. They're completely different brands, right? Because that's the foundation, how we frame their strengths and their channels are different. Their marketing's different. Their brand positioning's different. Their copy's different. Everything is different. And it does not mean one is wrong and one is right. However, while it does not mean one is wrong and one is right, what it's going to do from the position of the community, audience, those that see your content, is it will position one as wrong and one as right. Because when done correctly, those that are looking for the explorer and a mentor are going to see the rebel and be like, that is not for me. And those that are looking for the rebel and land on an explorer's Instagram page, as an example, are going to say, that's not for me. I want someone bold and calling things out and challenging systems, and they're a little too soft for me. So when done right, this is a powerful catalyst for framing everything in your brand moving forward. Everything depends on this. So if you have not done the quiz, you got to check it out. It is the world's first BG5 and brand archetypes quiz. And I will drop the link in the show notes. Make sure you go over, and then when you put in your email, it'll put you over to the landing page. And it's basically a masterclass in your archetype. I don't think anyone provides that much value that I've put on that page. And I have an email series that you'll receive as well that gives you even more nuances as you go, helps you go a little bit deeper into it. And if you're like, Ashley, I have done the quiz, what's the next step? You can go, if you are ready for one-on-one work, the brand VIP day would be your next step. If you are newer to business or branding, or you're in a pivot and you're desiring clarity. If you're looking for more done for you, that would be the brand to movement accelerator. And that's a done for you offer. You fill out an extensive questionnaire. We meet for 15 minutes to go over it and have anything clarified that I need clarified. I go away for 2 weeks and I bring you back the deliverables, which are outlined on the page. And then we meet for 45 minutes to answer anything, refine anything that's coming up, finalize the polish on it, put the bow on it, and send you off to apply it in your brand. So that's done for you. I do the thinking for you. Both have value. If you're a public figure or you work in corporate, I would say a brand VIP day is more your jam. And we can look at, it's not just for entrepreneurs, we can look at your unique situation and help you move forward with creating a brand archetype within corporate, within your public persona that fits how you want to be seen as a leader within your niche and a leader within your industry. You can also send me an email over at support@ashleybrand@eve.com, 1N. If you're like, I don't know which one, Ash, can we discuss it? Absolutely. Shoot me over an email and we can talk about it. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.